Is Kirk Cousins about to be traded to the Cleveland Browns? That is where we kick off today's Verts episode. My name is Harrison Graham. Welcome in. Daily NFL content and a couple of items I want to get to here on an NFL News Dump Friday. Kirk Cousins was seen at 2 Chipotle locations in the greater Cleveland area, a couple of different suburbs, and there's been rumors for a few weeks now. It kind of feels like the worst kept secret in the league that Kirk Cousins could get traded to the Cleveland Browns. A couple of photos emerging on social media of him hanging out at these Chipotles. You see this one, you see that one. Is he a Chipotle ambassador, or is he looking for real estate in the Cleveland area if he ends up having to move his family there? That is the question. I looked into it. I talked to our Browns host. There, to our knowledge, is no family ties to the Cleveland area for Kirk Cousins. His wife is from Atlanta, which is obviously where they live now. So that is certainly notable when it comes to that. Obviously, the Browns need a quarterback. The latest rumors suggest they are not going to draft Shedeur Sanders with the number 2 pick. So it kind of feels like it doesn't take a genius to wonder, yeah, this thing could have some wheels in motion. Like I said, it kind of does feel like the worst-kept secret in the league that Kirk Cousins, at some point, whether it's in the near future, after the draft, before training camp, will end up with the Cleveland Browns. And we'll talk about the contract part of it in a little bit. But obviously, that's probably the biggest hurdle because, first, he's got to waive his no-trade clause if he's going to get traded because it doesn't sound like Atlanta will cut him. And second, how do you maneuver around the contract because obviously he's owed a bunch of money. Another report that's out there is that he doesn't want to have happened last year to happen again. And what I mean by that is he doesn't want to waive his no-trade clause, agree to get traded to Cleveland, and then they change their mind and decide to draft Shedeur Sanders, who would obviously replace him sooner rather than later, which is why I don't think anything happens with Cousins until after the draft. I think discussions are probably taking place. This is just a guess. This hasn't been reported. I think that the Falcons are allowing Kirk to communicate with Cleveland, which is why he's in the area looking around, sniffing around. You know, he did this with Atlanta last year, looking for school districts if he does indeed move his family there to do that. And look, if you're the Browns, Kirk Cousins did not play that well last year. We all know that. But played okay in the first part of the year. Then he suffered a shoulder injury and midway through. Didn't look the same. He's now an extra year removed from the Achilles. You could do worse than Kirk Cousins, especially if it ends up being a situation where, similar to last year like Russell Wilson, the Cleveland Browns don't have to pay him a ton of salary this year. So let's get to those contract issues because part of a trade – I don't know if redoing the contract would have to take place before or after, but it would be figuring out the financials for both teams. Because if the Falcons trade Kirk Cousins right now, the cap hit for next season is absolutely astronomical. I think it's $75 million. Even if it's a post-June 1 trade, they still owe him a ton of money. From a cash flow standpoint, Cousins is owed $37 million this year. So he's going to get that money from somebody, whether the Falcons, whether it's the Browns, whether it's some kind of split. He just passed a deadline that ensures an additional $10 million for this year, so it went up from $27 to $37 million. So he's getting that money. The question is, if he does end up in Cleveland, I think there would have to be an agreement in place to tear up that old contract and redo it for a new one for maybe like 1 year, $10 million, similar to Russell Wilson and the Giants, with incentives up to $20 million or something like that. I think that's what you would be looking at in a Kirk Cousins situation. You kind of saw this several years ago as well. The Bears traded for Nick Foles, and he was on a 4-year, $88 million deal, which he signed with Jacksonville. The Bears were not going to pay him that because he was terrible with the Jags, but they traded for him, and they redid that deal and turned it into a new 3 years, $24 million contract. So I don't think it would be a 3-year deal, but it could be something along those lines where, hey, we're going to trade for you, but before we trade for you, agreement in place to redo this contract because the cap hits are complex, and it is going to lead to a situation where I think if you're Cousins, you have to say, look, do I want to be a starter or do I want to make maximum amount of money for the next couple of years? I think he would want to start. He's made over $300 million in his NFL career. He's getting the $37 million cash flow this year, so I don't think he's going to be stubborn and be like, yes, give me $25 million. A, I don't think a team's doing that. B, I would think he's pretty desperate to start after how things went last year. He doesn't want his career to kind of just stumble to the finish line as a high-paid backup in Atlanta. So I do think this will happen at some point, like I said, probably after the draft, unless there's an agreement in place that they will not draft a quarterback with the number 2 pick. But we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But one other angle, too, Kevin Stefanski, the Browns head coach, was Cousins' offensive coordinator for a season a few years back in Minnesota. Should the Browns trade for Kirk Cousins? What do you guys think? Type T for trade or P for pass. Look, I'm not crazy optimistic about what Kirk Cousins can do at 37 years old in 2025, but if I'm the Browns, I would trade a conditional day 3 pick, maybe a 5th-round pick that, if he leads them to the playoffs or he reaches certain statistical milestones, that could turn into a 4th, obviously for the 2026 draft, because, again, those conditions couldn't be met before this draft because the season's not until this fall. So I would do something like that. The Justin Fields Steelers trade, a 6th that could turn into a 4th based on playing time. You could do something similar. So that's something I would offer because I think he can at least be serviceable. And let's face it, the Browns have not had serviceable other than that brief stretch with Joe Flacco a couple years ago, which, let's be honest, felt pretty fluky. All right, subscribe to the channel. We got one more story to get to in a second, but we are trying to get to 9,000 subs as soon as possible, for sure before the NFL draft, which is less than 4 weeks away. 325 subscribers away. If you want free and daily NFL content here on this channel, reacting to all the big stories, that's what we do. Hit that subscribe button. Okay, Abdul Carter update. Penn State's pro day actually going on as we speak today. Not working out. Remember at the combine, his agent Drew Rosen asked, he'll be good by the pro day. He'll work out. Not happening. Doesn't sound like it's his I think it's the shoulder that's still recovering, is a super serious situation, but they're just going to play it safe. And based on the reporting, which we'll get to here from Albert Breer, is his floor is top 4. And I think he and his agent know that. So if he's not 100%, why even work out? Now, Rosenhaus did say he could do some private workouts for teams in the middle of April. We'll see if that takes place. But Breer mentioned that he has top 30 visits with the Giants and Patriots coming up. They pick 3 and 4. He's already done top 30s with the Titans and Browns. Confident he'll go in the top 4. I'm told those are the only 4 teams that the Penn State star plans to visit. Obviously, an uber-talented player, 12 sacks in his first full year as an edge rusher. I mean, the sky is the limit for this kid. He's got a chance to be really special. I think him and Travis Hunter are the guys in this draft that you're like, okay, who would you bet on to be that true blue-chip guy for the next decade? You would bet those 2 guys. And Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. And like I said, he knows, his agent knows he's a lock to go top 4. And really, the heavy reporting suggests Cleveland at 2. And I think with this Cousins wrinkle, too, if they're going to go with Cousins, they're not going to take a QB at 2. They're going to go Abdul Carter. So, even if he got passed by, even if the Browns did take Shedeur at 2, he knows his floor is 4 because the top 4 picks in whatever order you want is Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, potentially Shedeur if he's the 4th guy, but if he slides, probably Mason Graham or Ashton Genty or Tyler Warren would be that 4th guy. But regardless, he's a lock to go top 4 and really top 3 if Shedeur's not in the mix anymore. Okay, who's the best player in this draft? Many think it is Abdul Carter. If Travis Hunter can truly play both ways, at least in some capacity in the NFL, I'd make an argument for him. But to me, it's those 2 guys. Pick your poison, pick your flavor. Who do you want in this draft? If you can get your hands on one of those 2, you're a pretty happy customer. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of For Verts. Happy Friday, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend. You got some March Madness. Baseball's underway. NFL draft getting closer. We'll continue to cover all things NFL and NFL draft over the next several weeks leading up to it. My name is Harrison Graham. We'll have some content this weekend as well. We'll see you then.